Alright y'all, so it is time for me to start another book that I really have no business reading, November 9. Why, you may ask, have I been in the mood to read stuff that I don't think I'll really like? I don't know. Maybe it's just because the other two Colleen Hoovers I've read, I finished in 2 days, and I feel like reading something quickly, I guess. And like, I found out that Miles and Tate are mentioned in November 9, and I don't care about them at all, but that's what is making me want to read November 9. So I will keep you up to date on this. Okay, by the end of chapter 3, I have a list here entitled Things Ben is Doing Wrong, and there are 14 things on this list. Number 1, acting like Fallon owes him cleavage for pretending to be her boyfriend in front of her dad, even though that's something he did on his own. 2, kept wondering what kind of underwear she's wearing, stares at her butt closely enough to know she's either wearing a thong or going commando. Number 3, openly admits number 2 to her, and I think it's supposed to be for humor, but relentlessly talking about her underwear when you've just met her is not funny, it's creepy. Number 4, compared her to an ex-girlfriend twice. Number 5, didn't let her out of the booth when she wanted to get away from her father. Number 6, whenever she took him back to her apartment to help her pack, he grabbed a pair of underwear out of her drawer and goes back to the underwear conversation and says now all that's left to determine is what color she's wearing. And this next little section is just like the whole tour de force of the thing. He picks out what he wants her to wear for the date, and he makes it about him, saying things like, I want you to wear this one. And like, I basically wrote down the entire conversation. I want you to wear this one, but I don't want to wear that. I want to wear this one. No, I'm paying for dinner, so I get to choose what to stare at while we eat. So then whenever she's like, then I'll pay for dinner and wear the dress I want to wear. Then I'll stand you up and go to Chipotle. The tour de force continues. He triggers her by saying something that sounds like her father, who has been emotionally abusive to her since she got the scars like all the way down her left side. And like, this is supposed to be about like her building her confidence. Like 8 and 9, I wrote a special note up here about it, and I'll explain it here in a second. It's your own fault people are uncomfortable looking at you. And then he reinforces what he says. He's just like, it's true, instead of apologizing for how it came out. And then number 9 said, the only person who gives a crap about a few scars on your face is you. When that's blatantly untrue. He knows this is untrue because he was there at the dinner with her father, heard everything he was saying, knows that she's an actress that like looks like mean everything in that industry. So no, the only one that cares about her scars is not her. So like the little note I wrote up here is, I understand what he was going for, but he did not say it tactfully and didn't apologize for how it came across. And then he downplayed her struggle by chalking it up to being in her head. And it just really felt like gaslighting. And then he just starts undressing her without warning. Like, he just starts undressing her. And she's sitting there and like, she's uncomfortable and like, she's like trying to act like she's like trying to do some mental gymnastics to act like she's okay with this, but like she's crying. And then she says the tear doesn't faze him. Like she's sitting there crying and he continues to do it. And then whenever he starts unbuttoning her jeans, she's like, this is going too far, too far, too far, too far. Like, those are her words. Those are her words. As much as I want him to stop. And then she goes into this bull crap like, I get the feeling he's not undressing me for pleasure. Like, it don't matter. Even though that's like absolutely stupid, because he's made it clear that he finds you beautiful. That whole scene right there was just very upsetting. Very upsetting. And then after he gets his jeans off of her, he brings back the underwear conversations just like, oh, they're red. Like, shut the heck up. And then he puts the dress on her that he wants her to wear, doesn't ask. He's just like, lift your arms. And then the next thing is like her words. He thinks my insecurities are absurd. He undressed me to prove a point. So I put AKA the worst TM. And then to end the chapter, when he leaves, her roommate and her boyfriend are sitting in the living room or whatever, and he announces to them what color underwear she's wearing. It's not funny. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be for humor, but it's not funny. They just met. Why are you relentlessly talking about her underwear? And then I have another list of stupid things Fallon says. And first one is, now I'm laughing at the ridiculousness of my tears, because who does this? Who cries when a guy undresses her for the first time? Well, I would say if it was non-consensual like that, everyone! Okay, so I'm pretty freaking upset now. All right, so I was going to include some screenshots of things that I was, screenshotting from the book. And I don't know if I'm going to include any of that now, because I was gonna do all that whenever I got home and discuss kind of how I felt about them. But now the book has made me really upset. Okay, so now we're just gonna fully go on into spoilers and stuff. So on the 3rd, November 9th, Ben's brother died, or he had died a couple days before that. And a lot of the stuff that happened during that section, I was going to forgive because grief is hard. But then whenever Fallon was just no, you don't need to make any big decisions right now. You shouldn't come to New York because your sister-in-law needs you. She's about to have a baby and all this stuff. That was the right decision. And I understand that Ben was very emotional at that time and didn't want to let her go. And he did say some things that I was just no, that's way too controlling and stuff. But I was going to let it pass because I was going to be okay, he's still very much grieving. It's still only 2 days later after his brother's death. I was gonna let it go. But then we get to the 4th, November 9th, and it's a year later and he still blames her for leaving. And not only that, he doesn't realize that she was right in her decision. Then, to top all that off, he's now dating his sister-in-law. It's been a year since your brother died, and you didn't even wait that long to start dating his wife, who just had a baby at the beginning of the year. And I realized that you guys were living together, but there's still a line. There's still a line, and I don't have any idea how long my hand was showing in that shot. So now Fallon's figured it out that he's with Jordan, and then and now I got into Ben's section. He's just I didn't want her to find out like this, but she's the one that decided to stay with our plan. She can't be mad at me. She's the one that left me whenever I needed her most. Excuse you, sir. I understand that you were grieving, and just trying to run away from New York would not have been the answer to your grief. Gosh, I don't know. Now, I was actually mildly enjoying the book for a little bit. I thought that Ben and Fallon had more organic chemistry than any of the relationships that I've seen in Colleen Hoover's books so far. The writing hasn't made me cringe and all that, but now I'm really close to DNFing. I don't know. Okay, let me just give you the screenplay of what just happened. Fallon, stop. Ben, I'm trying. Ask me again. Fallon opens her mouth to speak. Ben puts his mouth over her mouth to keep her from speaking. And this is the 5th November, after the 4th November where he was dating someone else, and then he didn't give her a clear answer whenever she asked if he was still with Jordan or not. Also didn't answer her question whenever she asked, how did you find me? He dodged the question by just you didn't answer mine, just okay, but her question needs to be answered because you look like a stalker right now. Like I said, that was a small portion of this book that I was actually just you know what, this really isn't as bad as I feel people have brought it up to be, but it started to take a nosedive after the end of the 3rd, November 9. Okay, so it is about a week, maybe even a little more later than whenever I finished this book, which is just enough time for me to gather my thoughts and then completely lose them again. So to try to find my bearings again a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and go through all of these screenshots that I took. First screenshot I took was 1st November 9th. I am translucent, aquatic, drifting, aimless. She is an anchor, sinking in my sea. Benton James Kessler. I think I screenshotted that because I was thinking, what is this even supposed to mean? I did notice when I walked in that she still had on the dress though. I was hoping she wouldn't change her mind and pack it before I had a chance to intervene. I already have to stop myself about the stupid dress. I see movement out of the corner of my eye, so I glance at the bathroom. She's standing in the doorway. My eyes fall to the dress first. I have to give myself props for picking that one out. You're about to puke when you feel like kissing a girl? I shake my head. Not until you. She huffs and pushes past me. That did not come out how I meant it. I didn't mean the thought of kissing you makes me sick. I meant I want to kiss you so bad it's making my stomach hurt. Kind of like blue balls, but in my stomach instead of my balls. Colleen Hoover, like, she likes to mention balls. In Ugly Love, it was Miles and Rachel's son's balls that she wanted to point out and laugh at. Like, this isn't so bad as that, but still, why? Oh, I forgot about Abatha! That's just Tabitha without the T. It's a dumb name. If we're going to kiss, it has to be book-worthy. After you kiss me, I want you to forget all about that Abatha chick you keep talking about. I make my way to the other side of the bed and lie down next to where she's propped against the headboard. I roll onto my side and lift up on my elbow. Abatha who? She grins at me. Exactly. From now on, when you meet a girl, you better be comparing them to me instead of her. Or we could just not do that. Fallon's a little bit of the worst in this too. Using you as a standard is completely unfair to the rest of the female population. She rolls her eyes, assuming I'm kidding again, but in all honesty, the thought of comparing anyone to Fallon is ridiculous. There's no comparison, and it sucks that I've only spent a few hours with her and I already know that. I almost wish I'd never met her because I don't do real girlfriends and she's moving to New York and we're only 18 and so many things. Which that was never talked about. Why did he not do real girlfriends? And like he threw that philosophy out after, well, I mean, during grief. So I mean, like, I guess it makes sense for you to change your philosophy during your grief, but still we didn't establish like why that was a thing in the first place. Are you still thinking about kissing me? I tilt my head back against the pillow and look up at her. I move beyond the kiss. Marry me. She laughs and scoots down on the bed so that she's facing me. Her expression is soft with a trace of a smile. She reaches a hand out and presses her palm against my cheek. Neck. You shaved, she says, running her thumb over my jaw. I'm trying to remember exactly why I took a picture of that. I feel like I thought that the marry me was weird, but also a little bit cute. But then there's also the fact, I think this was the main thing I was going for. The fact that it says that she was running her thumb over his jaw. Like, this is their second November 9 together. They've only known each other for about 6 to 7 hours now. But I think I just found it a little unbelievable that she was so comfortable with touching him already. And like, she just like went and did it. There wasn't like any hesitation. And they're just like already like so comfortable with each other and touching each other. It's just like, nah. This next little passage. Whenever you know the twist. Hold on, let me see how many more screenshots I have. Oh my gosh, I have a lot. I have a lot. I'm sorry, I don't know how to slow myself down when I'm with you. Ah! Learn! Had I stayed out of it, I wouldn't have had the privilege of finding out what kind of panties you had on. Shut up! Shut up, Ben! I can't believe he just did that, and I can't believe I'm going to suck it up and call my father tomorrow simply because Ben asked me to. Okay, so I think I'm starting to collect a little bit more how I was feeling throughout the whole thing. So the reference towards books throughout, like, TBR and then booksting, which is like sexting apparently, but with books somehow, it was cringe. Those were probably the most cringe parts of the book whenever they went into stuff like that. Now this is one of the lines that people like really give the book grief over, which like I get it, but also like Fallon even herself mentions that she went too far with her thought right there. So I'm not really mad at this particular line. Why would a girl care to find herself when she'll never be able to make herself feel as good as a guy can? Because she immediately follows it up with, okay, now I'm just being stupid. But like, I get why people are upset about it, but there's a lot of vitriol towards that line, and I'm just like, okay, like, step back. She is letting her emotions take over in that moment, and she immediately comes back and is just like, that was dumb. So whenever I was looking at Goodreads for some reviews, I found Chandler's, I think her channel name is Chandler Ainsley, and she actually brought up a really good point in her review about Colleen Hoover books just in general. After finishing this book, I really did not enjoy. I find myself wondering what the difference maker is between the books she writes that I enjoy versus not, because she definitely has a formula, and I think I'm starting to parse it out. It comes down to what you are and are not willing to put up with. The twists in Hoover's books are always meant to get you thinking about morality and choice. And a big part of your enjoyment of her books comes down to what you're willing to overlook or how you choose to interpret things. For instance, in one of her books, not this one, cheating is the theme and there is a twist surrounding it. Are you willing to overlook the cheating because of the twist, or is it still unforgivable? And I think that's a really interesting point to bring up, considering that wasn't really the case in Without Merit, but I guess it would definitely be the case in Ugly Love, with Miles' history and all of that, and then just how he generally treated Tate. And I don't have a problem with morally gray characters. I like to analyze them. I like to just study characters in general, whether they're good or bad or morally gray. So whenever it comes to someone like Ben, do we just consider him a morally gray character? Or do we have to step back and think about how the story is trying to portray him? Because if he was just a morally gray character, I think I would like this book better, possibly. And here's the thing, Ben is responsible for the fire. Like, I understand that, but I also do not hold that against him whatsoever. For him to find out what he did about his mom at the age of 16 and being grieving over it, and him having like a moment of craziness, like, I understand that. It's deep hurt. I know what grief can do to you. I didn't do anything like that whenever I was in the middle of my grief, but his situation, I get it. He wasn't trying to hurt anybody. The fire got bigger than he intended. He was just trying to set fire to the car, and it went onto the house, and he instantly regretted it. Yes, it was a bad thing that he did, but I really don't hold it against him. That's not where the problem with this book lies with me. It's the fact that Ben knows that his actions burned Fallon. The moment that he decided to insert himself into her life and try to make her okay with her scars and find them beautiful and stuff really starts coming off the wrong way whenever you realize that he's responsible for the scars, and it no longer feels like genuine confidence building. It feels like manipulation and self-appeasement. And I think, do I share how I would fix this? Because I might just want to write it myself. Basically, the main thing I would have fixed is that Ben didn't know what he did to Fallon, that he didn't know that his actions as a 16-year-old ended up hurting her. I think that would have been a better reveal, that they both found that out at the same time, and then Ben could still come across as genuine in his trying to build Fallon's confidence up. And then towards the end of the book, it really just tries to make people too forgivable without the work. Fallon just talking to her dad again and saying that, no, I really didn't make things easy for him during that time. We saw the opening scene. Your dad is being pretty terrible to you. Yes, you can look at it as well, he was just being a professional and being realistic and saying that my career was over. But it's just he's your dad. There's a line, and he very much crossed that line. And because we never see him again, we never see him put in the work to earn that redemption. And then just a general problem that I've had with this book and Ugly Love is that there's way more focus on the male love interest story than there is on the supposed female lead. Because in Ugly Love, the story really was about Miles' history and why he's so tormented and stuff. And Tate really had nothing. One of the ways that the book is pitched is that Tate didn't have time for love. She's so busy. We never see her go to work. We supposedly know she does, but we never see her go to work. She barely interacts with her brother except whenever there's drama with Miles. There's no kind of development on her end whatsoever. Miles is the one with all the important story beats. And in November 9, we had the same problem. it wasn't quite as bad as with Tate, because we do at least know with Falynn that stuff is going on in her life. We find out about like her going on auditions, and we see her progress into no longer wanting to be an actress. She wants to be a coach. Like, we do like get that progression. We just don't really see it because we don't see Ben or Falynn away from each other. We never see a moment of Falynn's life in New York, except for the one time that Ben is supposed to come to her and he can't because his brothers just died. So it's just another case of Falynn has no story outside of Ben. Falynn does have a story, just not one we get to watch, is what I mean. And then there was the whole Falynn asking Ben forgiveness at the end. Like, for what? For what? Because she got mad at him for setting the scars? Well, I said I don't, like, want that to be held over Ben's head for the rest of his life, doesn't mean that Falynn is the one that has to apologize. She had every right to do what she did. She did nothing that she had to apologize for. Anyway, I think that is the end of this vlog. I think I'm talked out. As you can see, plenty of things actually to discuss with this. That's why I gave it 2 stars. Still don't really think it was that good, but I did think it was better than Ugly Love. But that is it for this vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you later.